Please help me thank Nick Nanos. He's always informative and always very insightful, and he's a very hard act to follow. Thank you, Nick. Welcome, bonjour, and welcome to AMO 2017. For 118 years, we've been bringing Ontario together at AMO. Thank you for being here today to hear AMO report out. It's great to see so many of my fellow elected officials, senior staff, and leaders from all orders of government. I'm also proud to say that AMO has a growing relationship with Ontario's First Nations. Chief Ava Hill of Six Nations is here. Welcome, Anine. She is a member of the Chiefs of Ontario's Political Confederacy. So, I have been your president for 1 year now, and I have learned a lot of things. Here's 2 of them. We, municipal governments, are all vastly different, and there's a tremendous variety across Ontario. We know our home communities intimately, but few can say that we know the rest of this room and their communities as well as we should. There are 444 municipal governments in Ontario. 80 are very small, with less than 1,000 people. Another 191 have fewer than 10,000 in population. 56 serve populations of more than 50,000 people, and 10 more than 500,000. Several are as large as Canada's smallest provinces. Some cover that large an area, and some have that many people. Former AMO President Roger Anderson likes to point out that despite all our variety, we all have the same challenges. One municipality might need to increase tax bills by $10 to resurface a road. Another municipality might need to increase tax bills by $10 to expand a transit system. It's the same challenge. More than half of Ontario's 444 municipal governments have less than 10 full-time employees. 10 employ more than 1,000 people, and 10 have 1 full-time employee. So if you take those 20 municipalities, the 10 largest and the 10 smallest, they're subject to the same rules, provincial government processes, and legislative responsibilities. Don Drummond said it best in his groundbreaking report in 2012. Ontario's provincial government and Ontario's municipal governments are intertwined. Policymakers, provincial and federal, need to work with us. It doesn't matter how good the idea is or how well-intentioned, it will not work on the ground without our knowledge and our experience. One size cannot fit all. And that's why all of the party leaders are here, including the Premier, and she's brought her cabinet. They know that the provincial government's services and responsibilities are deeply connected with municipal services and responsibilities. At any given time, AMO has dozens of policy files that they work on, and we're going to cover almost all of them here at this conference program. Now, I can't do them all justice in the short time I have here, so I'm just going to give you some of the timely updates. Please remember AMO's website is also at your service. It's an excellent resource available 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We have raised serious concerns about Bill 148, the Fair Workplaces and Better Jobs Act. This bill, better known as the minimum wage bill, but it will have, the minimum wage part is just the tip of the iceberg. It also proposes changes to shift notices and to requirements for employees who are on call. These changes would increase emergency service costs dramatically and undermine disaster management capacity. We are required to provide immediate and large-scale response 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, we've had some very good discussions with Minister Flynn and his staff, and he's told us that we were not the intended target of this act. We know that municipal governments are employers of choice, and we expect we will get amendments so that we continue to provide these critical services. Bill 68, the Modernizing Ontario's Municipal Legislation, has changed the Municipal Act and the Municipal Conflict Act. From now on, all municipalities must have access to an integrity commissioner. It will cost money to set up, administer, and maintain. AMO was able to get amendments that limit complaints to an IC during municipal election periods. That makes sense, and it's consistent with the province's own rules. We secured other improvements as well. The definition of a meeting will be clear and consistent. You will be able to ask an integrity commissioner for advice on conflict or code of conduct matters. And we've gained helpful changes to the Municipal Elections Act. Waste management. Big changes are coming, and we need to prepare for them. We appear to have turned a corner on getting to extended producer responsibility. Right now, municipalities are responsible for waste diversion. In the future, waste producers will be responsible for waste diversion. Yes, it took a long time. Municipalities may still have a role, but only if producers hire us to manage it for them. It will require you to see and think about waste management differently, and it's important and challenging transition that is ahead of us, and we need to give it our full attention to ensure that it succeeds. The Ontario Municipal Board reform is back on the front burner. They're proposing it be replaced with the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Generally, AMO is very supportive of this bill. That being said, we are proposing some fine print changes. So AMO's board met here on Saturday, and we approved AMO's submission to the province. Staff will post it and email it out to the members in the next couple of days. But please be patient, because as you can expect, they've kind of got their hands full right at the moment. The federal government wants to end your optional 1/3 tax exemption. We've measured what that impact would be in Ontario. Other provinces will also be affected, so AMO's board discussed this also on Saturday, and we passed a resolution that asks the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to also help us and get involved in this action. For years, we have struggled with an interest arbitration process that is balanced and, quite frankly, broken. Police and fire wage growth has taken on a life of its own. It's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. It's unfair to our other employees, and it's unfair to our taxpayers. We've been in talks with the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association and the Ministry of Labour for 16 months. And that follows a failed facilitation effort that was led by Justice George Adams. I'm sorry to tell you that there's no reason to expect progress on this file. The OPFFA have no incentive to change, and every incentive to protect their current system. The Ontario government has a responsibility to ensure that all Ontario communities have access to safe and affordable and effective emergency services. In the meantime, we're putting that fruitless process on hold for the time being, and we're turning our focus towards the latest provincial reach into municipal fire services. The province, at the urging of the OPFFA, is pushing to create fire medics. This push to turn fire trucks into ambulances at your expense is driven purely by politics. Paramedics are livid, and for good reason. The province assures us that arbitrators will not be able to force OPFFA's staffing plans on you. The future of fire medics should be decided by councils and by councils alone. And we want to see this in writing. By that way, it needs to be backed up in the legislation. It's not all doom and gloom. We have a success story in the federal government's Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. And with that, I want to give a big shout out to Minister Morrow and Minister Shirelli. They were a great help in phase 1. Thank you. They got us new provincial money. They used a formula approach to distribute it. Every municipality received an allocation. It contributed to 1,300 water and wastewater projects. So now AMO is shifting gears to focus on phase 2. We'll do our best to make sure it serves you and your communities as well as possible. We will want a formula-based approach that supports your capital plans and your assessment priorities. Marijuana legalization is a hot topic. Why did marijuana cross the road? I'm only asking that because I have heard every single marijuana joke that you can ever imagine. But legalization is no joke. Municipalities must have a say in local aspects of the change, and all local costs should be funded, and that comes from planning and zoning, public safety, and public health. Marijuana legalization provides a perfect example of how federal or provincial decisions can affect our bottom line. They make the rules, we get the responsibility, the accountability, and the cost, and we have to manage any unintended consequences. As we keep stressing with our federal and provincial peers, we are concerned about our ability to pay for just the basics. Collectively, our costs are going up about $1 billion a year, and that's just to keep doing what we do now, adding no new services. And that's why for the past 2 years, AMO has been focused on the financial future of our municipal governments. We need to be confident that we can meet our obligations, meet our community expectations, and balance our budgets. It's been 10 years since we reached the upload agreement, and that concludes on schedule in 2018. We now keep about $1.8 billion more every year to provide local services and to invest in infrastructure. We gave the province a decade to manage the upload, and we channeled relief into infrastructure investment, as we promised we would. Municipal government owns more infrastructure in Ontario than the federal or the provincial governments. We need dependable, predictable funding to keep our infrastructure in good repair. Formula-based funding is predictable and it's fair. Canada's gas tax is a great example of funding that works. That being said, we value every funding program that we have, be it formula or application. We can't have anything taken away. Municipalities cannot possibly make ends meet on property taxes alone. I'm not sure if Mayor Dave is here. I'm going to talk about Kenora for a moment. Kenora's bridges, many downloaded in the 1990s, need $140 million in work with a tax base of 15,000 people. In Eastern Ontario, municipal governments manage nearly 70,000 lane kilometers of roads. Their roads could circle the earth 1.5 times. Chatham-Kent has 853 bridges and 18,000 culverts to maintain, on a shrinking tax base. And the region of Waterloo needed and built a light rail system, train system. It cost just over $800 million. The upload and infrastructure programs don't fix the fundamental challenge that we continue to face. No matter how you look at it, the scale of the need is greater than the property taxes can keep up with. Our in-depth financial analysis found that the annual funding gap for Ontario's municipal governments as a whole will be $4.9 billion annually for those next 10 years. On this slide, the bottom two bars are the property tax and the user fees, and that includes an assumption that they rise by inflationary pressures every year. The next two talk about both the federal and the provincial funding, and that's not the funding you get today. That includes everything that they've committed to that you haven't already got. So every commitment that's been made is included in those two bars. 4.9 is shy of the 13.2 we need to provide services and address our long-standing infrastructure needs. But these challenges aren't new to you. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know and haven't been living with for years. And AMO's been talking about it for some time as well. The discussion has been AMO's most ambitious engagement to date. We have been out on the road province-wide. We've issued 3 detailed reports, and we've sought feedback repeatedly. We sent correspondence by Canada Post to every single elected official in Ontario. So if you didn't get it, don't blame us, blame Canada Post. You've explained to us the same challenges in different ways. To a varying degree, we're all muddling through. We're improving efficiencies and stretching our tax dollars. We are making cuts. We are deferring costs. You are doing your very best. But muddling along is not the answer. Muddling is not a path to strong communities. It's not a path to strong Ontario. At some time, you will have to find more revenue. Maybe that sometime has already come for you. Right now, your only real lever is higher property taxes. Remember that $4 billion gap? To make ends meet, our combined property tax revenue would have to increase by 8% a year, every year, for the next decade. Can that be done? Should it be done? Ontario already pays the highest property taxes in Canada. How high does the Ontario government want property taxes to go? We think there's a better solution. Municipal revenue should be expanded to include retail sales tax. Specifically, Ontario should increase the HST by 1% and dedicate that revenue to local municipal infrastructure. All 3 party leaders are here. And I'm pretty sure that their first reaction to our HST proposal is probably going to be no. But that begs the following questions. Do they support higher property taxes? Do they support deep cuts to municipal governments? Do they have an alternative plan that can address the $4 billion gap and help all municipalities? Right now, you're probably thinking, what other alternatives exist? You may be asking, why not this? Why not that? Did they think of this? We asked all those questions too. The answers are in our 3 What's Next Ontario reports. About 40 options were considered, including status quo, doing nothing. We looked across Canada, we looked around the globe for models that work elsewhere, and we looked close to home. What about the Toronto tax tools? Even with them, Toronto is in the same boat we are. They will be the first to tell you that the Toronto tools are not enough, and they offer almost no relief for small, rural, or northern municipalities. We've measured all 40 options against the same criteria. Sufficiency. Is it enough for everyone? Public accountability. Does it achieve this? Geographic, economic, social impacts. Is it fair and is it balanced? Administrative efficiency. Can it be done? And can it be done at a reasonable cost? The 1% HST option provides the best results of everything that we have looked at. Is the public ready? Yeah, I think so. You heard Nick Nanos. More than 3/4 of Ontarians are concerned that property taxes aren't enough to fund municipal government. 60% object to cutting services to freeze property taxes. Do they like it? They like it more than they like higher property taxes. They like it more than deep cuts. They accept it if it's what's needed to build the infrastructure that our communities and our economy needs. The AMO board table looks a lot like this room does. We come from the north, the south, the east, and the west. We represent vastly different communities of all shapes and sizes, and we come with different political stripes. Over the past 2 years, we've moved from gasps and wringing our hands to confidence. The board is confident in the work that has been done. And I have to compliment every member of the board and all of the voices that spoke out strongly. And the questions that I was hearing on the mic when Nick Nanos was speaking are questions that your representatives from large, small, rural, northern have all asked at the table. We've looked at all your options, and we've looked at all of Ontario's options, and this option has your board's unanimous support. Now, don't get me wrong, we fully appreciate the gravity of what we're proposing. We also appreciate the need to address what we feel is a threat to Ontario's prosperity. We must fix Ontario's weakest link. In relative terms, municipal governments are underfunded. The share of tax dollars that goes to municipal governments is smaller, way smaller than it should be. Municipal governments need a new source of dependable revenue that isn't based on the political winds of the day. A 1% local share HST increase would generate enough revenue, about $2.5 billion, to make progress on our priorities. It was the one solution that worked for everyone, no matter what size. Whether your challenge was aging rural bridges or public transit, it's fully transparent and it's accountable. It ensures that everyone who uses contributes, even visitors. And unlike property tax increases, which hit people regardless of income, we can build in protection for those with low incomes. More than a year ago, we saw the scope of this problem. Right then and there, we knew that we were going to have to propose something very bold. And right then and there, I knew I didn't want to be the only elected official who was calling for it. So I've asked a few others who have contacted us and shown us our support to explain why they have come to the same conclusion that the rest of the AMO board has. Chris?
My name is Chris Friel. I'm the mayor of the city of Brantford, Ontario. I've served as mayor for 16 years, so I've seen the infrastructure issues that have gone on. Our community was established when Joseph Brand came in 1783. We have some old infrastructure that we have to deal with. We've attempted over the last number of years, we're putting a 1.5% infrastructure levy on our every year, but it's going onto the property tax. We wanted to do it every year for 10 years, so we built a base. And I think the estimate is at the end of that 10 years, it'll get us to about where we should have been in 2002. And we don't have any other options available to us. We don't want to cut services. In fact, in most cases, we can't cut services because those services are set at a level that are required by the province. We have to meet them. We are also a community that benefits from having casino revenue. We bring in about $4 million a year. That now, slowly but surely, is going back into infrastructure because it's all that we can do. And I would, to the lady who spoke first about getting a percentage of it, let me say that having $1 million extra in capital being in your infrastructure allows you to leverage against other projects. It allows you to move things forward. It allows you to consolidate operations. $1 million can translate into millions more in your infrastructure planning. And I also just want to comment because we're talking about the 1% HST, and I was actually one of the most vocal opponents of this in the beginning. I was an outright snickerer in the back room, very loud snickerer. But over the last couple of years, I don't know that we have any other option. In fact, I went from that to believe this is actually a logical process for us to be able to get into and to move forward. And if we are all now talking about infrastructure deficit, what about climate change and all of the things that are hitting us that we don't even understand yet, and we think we're going to be able to pay for that? So 1% HST, this concept, hard to get your head around in the beginning. It will create snickering. But once you spend your time and you look at it, you look at Nick Nanos' work, go back and talk to your constituents, ask them those questions. I think you'll be surprised, as we were, how positive your constituents will ultimately be.
Good morning, Lynn. My name is Kim Love. I'm the mayor of the Township of Madawaska Valley. Madawaska Valley is a small rural community in Renfrew County. We're located southeast of Algonquin Park. We have a population of 4,300 people, but we have 270 kilometers of municipal road to look after. For us, the local share means that we can finally take our heads out of the sand and face our infrastructure needs and challenges with some hope. For example, we've got an arena that's 40 years old. It was built with Ontario money. Well, it needs a new roof, and the ice-making system under the floor has started to leak. It's going to have to be replaced as well. Well, how do we do that? We've applied for grants. Guess what? We haven't won the lottery. So this is one of our biggest challenges, because in our community, hockey is important, and our arena is our community center. What do we do about that? For us, this is a very difficult challenge. How do you make the decision? Do I fix my arena, or do I fix my roads? When I look at the local share, this gives me an opportunity to hopefully be able to do both, and that's why I'm supporting the local share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lynn, and congratulations on your first year, and congratulations on bringing this topic to this floor this morning, and with Nick Nanos here. I'm the mayor of the town of Richmond Hill. We're in York Region. We have 200,000 people, and we are doing exactly as my colleagues here and many in the room are, putting additional levies, increasing taxes, all based on whether it's repair and replacement or new infrastructure. We have a motion and approved a motion in support of the 1%, the AMO process. And I think during our discussion, it was more about it's time to take some action. You've looked at 44 or some other close to that number of options. There don't seem to be any other options. So I think it's time for action. We get a work plan going on this. I know we are a part of LUMCO just due to our size, and the discussion at LUMCO is, as Nick said, we got to get together and work together and not bring a fractured process to anybody, the province or the federal government. So I think from my perspective in the town of Richmond Hill and our council, we're very much behind you. We look forward to the action plan that will bring some equity to the process, as others have described could be a problem. So we're 100% behind you, and carry on the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all three of you for speaking out. I just didn't want you to think, don't just listen to me, listen to your peers. So we're asking everybody in this room to walk through the same process that we did. Work through the challenge and read our reports. Skip to the last one if you must, but reserve judgment until you've considered all the information that we now have. Seriously consider the alternatives. We believe that an honest look at your challenges and the options will bring you to the same conclusion that we have come to. Ontario-wide, polling shows appetite for this change. And that's been consistent over 3 polls and over 18 months. It's also been consistent over regions, every region in Ontario. About 75% favored a new 1% HST for local infrastructure over other options. Times have changed, but municipal finance has not kept up. In fact, much of the current system is a holdover from a century ago. Modern municipal government deliver a broad range of sophisticated services. Retail sales tax revenue is used to fund municipal government in half of America's 50 states. It's common in the Western world and in the G20 countries. 1 year ago, at the AMO 2016 conference in Windsor, the Premier agreed that municipalities need a 21st century revenue tool. She said if the municipal community reached consensus, she would listen, and we've risen to that challenge. People understand something needs to change. Municipal governments collect just 9 cents of every tax dollar, 9 cents. Yet we provide the broadest range of frontline services of any level of government. It just doesn't add up. Tomorrow, we'll be asking the leaders about their position on the local share. If they can't support it, then we need to know what is their plan. We need to see that their plan can put Ontario municipalities onto a sustainable path. Because we've done the math, and we have identified the challenge, and we have proposed a viable solution. We deserve the means to provide our communities and to deliver a brighter future. AMO's going to roll out a campaign to explain this 1% HST local share proposal, and it includes a website and a Twitter account and background materials and a video. I'd like to share the video with you now.
Municipal governments deliver services and provide infrastructure that keep us moving, keep us safe, and keep us healthy every day. Municipal governments own 2/3 of all public infrastructure, and it all needs to be maintained, repaired, or expanded. Yet for all municipal governments do, they collect the smallest share of all tax dollars, just 9%. Municipal governments work to keep costs down, but they face forces well beyond their control. The provincial and federal governments make laws and regulations that municipal governments must meet, no matter the price. Insurance rates, energy costs, and many labor settlements are dictated by others. Other cost increases are driven by changes in population, and by changing weather patterns. In fact, municipal costs are growing by almost $3 million per day, or $1 billion per year. Ontario's municipal governments will face a gap of about $4.9 billion every year for the next 10 years. And that's just to maintain current services and address long-standing infrastructure needs. Property tax bills would need to double over the next decade to close that gap alone. Are higher property taxes really the way to fund modern communities? Or do we make deep cuts? Or big changes to the local services we depend on? Outside of Canada, many places use a sales tax to support important municipal services. This way, everyone who uses municipal services helps pay for them, including visitors and tourists. Dedicating an additional 1% of the sales tax to municipal government would provide meaningful long-term improvement to local infrastructure and services. It's an investment that will pay off in economic growth, a better quality of life, and a brighter future. It's time for our communities to get a local share. Visit thelocalshare.ca to learn more.
So that's the local share. You don't have to promote it if you don't want to, but you can. And our materials can help you to carry on that conversation about it. So take your time and give it a good look. When the municipal community works together towards a common goal, we are hard to ignore. Others are happy to exploit our differences if we let them. Going alone, there is little we can achieve, no matter if you're a municipality of 500,000 or a municipality of 10,000. If you're going alone, you are not going to be able to achieve. We must go together. So we look forward to working with all of you to achieve a greater local share for our communities. There's so much to soak in while you're here, and we're so happy that you have chosen the AMO conference. The program speaks to a range of services that we provide and a range of challenges that we face. It speaks to the importance of our level of government, municipal government. Think back to when you decided to run for office. That was bold and courageous, and it was the right way to be. Our communities do best when municipal leaders are bold and courageous. AMO board feels we need to be that way as well. We owe that to all of you. Ontario can only be the best place in the world if our communities are the best place in the world. Thank you. Miigwech.